Let's see if we can't get this started. First of all, I want to thank you all for your time this evening. We apologize for any confusion there may have been regarding the time, but we made it here, so here we are. Helping me tonight is Lion Richard Stevenson in Arizona. He's working the chat boxes for questions. And a special big thank you to the wizard behind the curtain, Second Vice District Governor Daniel Marney Elkins. He's the guy that set up the Zoom connection for everyone, so we appreciate his work as well. I'm Lion L. Hedstrom. I'm a proud member of the Silverdale Sunrise Lions in District 19C that's located in western Washington State. And yes, it's true what they say about the Evergreen State. It rains a lot here. In fact, it rains so much, we don't tan, we rust. I'm not going to get into the real elementary stuff regarding our computers this evening. I'm not going to talk about how to type or how to operate the mouse. I just don't have the patience for that. And frankly, you wouldn't be here if you didn't know how to already work those. So I'm going to skip over that. I do want to talk first about versions. I'm using version Windows 10 with PowerPoint version 2019. Everything I'm working with this evening also works with PowerPoint versions 2007 through 365. The arrangements of the ribbons may be a little different, but the commands are all there. I'm going to cover the following items tonight. I'm going to talk about beginning layouts, basic construction with text and graphic objects. I'm going to talk about arranging and adding new slides. I'll go into animations and transitions. We're going to take a look at the notes and the presenter view and talk briefly about saving our work. So let's get this underway. I'm going to share the screen here. There we are. So I've started PowerPoint here, and this is what we typically see when we start at the very beginning. And I want to talk briefly about initially what we see here. What we see here is what is referred to as the layout for the title slide. When you first start PowerPoint, you get what is called a title slide. And I refer to layouts. There are a variety of different layouts. I'm going to work with two different layouts. The title slide layout that we see here, and the title slide layout contains two different objects. In PowerPoint, you'll work with objects. You work with a text object, you work with a graphical object, you may work with a table object. There's a variety of different objects. And think of them like you would laying something on a table. You put a book on a table. You put a fork on a table. You put a flower on a table. So that's sort of like a good analogy of what we're working with when it comes to PowerPoint, because all of these objects you put on a slide. And on the slide, you can add content, you can add to those objects. You can also rearrange those objects visually around the slide. When we start with a title slide, of course, it has a great big hint right here. It says click to add title. Well, gee, what a great idea. So we click and we activate the cursor. I should correct myself a little bit. I came up through computers back in the days of DOS, and I'm still accustomed to calling this a cursor. Microsoft a long time ago renamed this thing. This is now considered to be an insertion point. And they call this thing the insertion point. If I can learn how to spell, that would help tremendously, because at some point where that thing is winking at us, you can insert other information. So therefore, they call this the insertion point. I'm still accustomed to calling this the cursor. Don't let my old habit confuse you. In the help modules, in all of your reference material, this is known as the insertion point. And actually, we've got two different types of cursors here. We've got this cursor sitting here winking at us right here. The other type of cursor is the guy that hits his thumb with a hammer. This is a cursor, and I know this from experience. So I've added some information to the to the main title here. And of course, this being a text box, I can add or subtract whatever I need in here. I can change the font, I can change the font size, etc., etc. If I want to navigate to the next text box where it says click to add subtitle, if I hit the enter key, I'm adding another line to the first text box as I hit my backspace. If I hit the tab key, I'm just adding another space in there. No, I don't need that either. If I want to add to the subtitle, I click to add to the subtitle, and I can type in here a subtitle. When it comes to the title slide, some people prefer to work with just the title without a subtitle. Whatever happens to work with you, that's perfectly fine. Again, when it comes to the text, you can add, modify, rearrange the text as you need. It's a simple matter of editing. So I've set up my title slide, and now I want to set up another slide. So I navigate over here on my home tab. I click on new slide, and I get a new slide. Gee, how revealing. And this particular new slide has different objects on it than did the title slide. This particular slide, this layout, is one that is the most commonly used because, of course, I can add a title and I can add text, and a little bit later on, I can add these different objects as well. I'm going to be exploring a couple of those as I go along. To click to add a title, I just do as I am told. So I have added to the next slide. And of course, I can modify my text. Added to the next slide. Well, added a title to the next slide. Editing is easy. And again, I can change the font. I can change the font size, the font color, etc. Working with the next text box. You're probably already accustomed to this, but I'm going to walk through this anyhow. By default, with this particular layout, it presents what is called a bulleted item for you, or bulleted text. And of course, the bullet is already there. All I need to do is add the text. So this is what I call my first level bullet. And there are several different levels that you can add to this, and I'm going to explore those as I go along. But first I'm going to hit the enter key because I want to add a second first level bullet. Did I misspell? I certainly did. Easy stuff. As I hit my enter key again, boy, my spelling is terrible tonight. It's because you people are watching me, that's why. So at this point, when I hit my enter key, I want to create the next level. So I hit the enter key, and what I do when I hit the tab key is that I demote this so that now I am working with the second level bullet. Because I'm on the second level, when I hit the enter key, I'm still on the second level. If I hit the enter key and then the tab key, again, I'm demoting. I'm now at the third level bullet. Notice as you navigate down to different levels, the font size changes. I believe the font remains the same. Yeah, the font remains the same, but the font size changes. Also notice the bullet itself diminishes. It reduces in size as well. Yeah, that makes sense. And now comes the point where you want a first level bullet. And you know that if you hit the enter key, you're going to get a third level bullet. So how, you may ask, how can I promote this to a first level bullet? Understand that demote is with the tab key, Promote, if you hold down on your keyboard the Shift key and then hit the Tab key, you are promoting. And now I am working on my fourth bullet at the first level. Takes a little bit of practice to get the hang of this, but it's fairly easy to do. But what about those situations where you want to add another line of text, but you don't want that bullet in there? In fact, that bullet is it's sort of obnoxious, and it gets in my way, and I don't like this thing. Easy stuff. Whether or not you already have a line with text or you're starting a new line of text, if you don't want that bullet, there's two different ways that you can eliminate that bullet. Number one is backspace, or another way is this guy right here. This is a toggle. You turn it on, you turn it off. Easy stuff. So I can add normal text without the bullet as I need to. If I change my mind after the fact, yes, because this is a toggle, I can turn it back on, and I've got my bullet in there. Not bad. Not bad. So working with text is relatively easy. It takes a little bit of practice to get used to this. I do want to point out that this slide contains two different text boxes. Both of these text boxes are considered to be objects. I've got a text box up here. This is the title. And I've got a text box down here. This is for the content. As a text box, of course, it is just an object on my slide, and I can add other objects onto the slide as well as I need to. So again, consider these to be objects to be manipulated as you need. So understanding that I can work with the text, I want to briefly illustrate how you can change the font and the font size. I'm going to first select some text. Now understand, when you select text, it's with the intent of copying it, moving it, deleting it, or changing its appearance. I'm going to change its appearance. I'm going to change to a different font face. The default font is called Calibri, intended for body text. I myself, I have been sort of fascinated by a font that is called Verdana. Now, I'm not sure of the correct pronunciation. It may be Verdana, it may be Verdana, I don't know. I hit the letter V, and I see it down here. Here it is. Note that when I point at that font name, this changes. This is illustrating what it will look like before I click on that font name. So I get a preview of what this is going to look like before I apply it.
Al,
Yo.
would you like questions as you walk through it, or would you like to wait till the end? One has come up.
Let's do that at the end, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I've selected a different font. I can also utilize this to assign a different font size. Easy to do. This is measured in what is called points. The default, of course, is 28 points. I can reduce, or I can expand it as I like. And of course, I can also change the font color. So yeah, let me try that. Ooh, that's a bright green there, isn't it? Now understand that only this text changed because that was the text that I had selected. If I want all of my text in this text box to change, I can do this one of two ways. I can exercise the old click and drag to select all of that text and then apply it, or I can click on what is known as the text frame right here, this line right here. A single click on this, and now when I change the font before I apply it, I see what it will look like before it's in play. So there's two different ways that I can select the text. One is exercising the click and drag. And again, I'm not going to go into how you click and drag, and you probably, I hope you already know how to do that. So I click and drag to select that text that I want to apply. And I can be selective. I don't have to do the entire thing, of course. I can select just this and make my modifications. I should also point out, when I let go of the mouse, when I have selected some specific text, I see that floating toolbar in there. This is where your more commonly utilized tools are located. This is not the only place, of course, but this gives us an opportunity to explore a different tool. A long time ago, Microsoft adopted a principle that says there's always more than one way to do the same thing. And this is just an illustration of exactly that. Yes, I can select the text and make my modifications here. I can select the text, make the modifications here. Sure. Even if I use a right mouse click. Now this time I get that floating toolbar, but I also get a menu here. Okay. So again, these are some of your more commonly utilized tools. I want to briefly mention right mouse click. Right mouse click, of course, the second button on the mouse there. The right mouse click, the shortcut menu, this will be different depending on what you're pointing at. For instance, if I point outside my text area with a right mouse click, I get a completely different menu. If I point over here in my slide illustrations, which is known as a slide sorter here, right mouse click, oh yeah, different menu. Up here in the ribbon, right mouse click, different menu. So, depending on what you're pointing at, the response is going to be different. So expect that. So I've created some text here. And at this point, before I go to my next slide to explore the next tool, I do want to mention, excuse me, I do want to mention that I do encourage exploring, trying things differently. Maybe something you've never tried before. You're not going to hurt anything. You're not going to break PowerPoint. Give it a shot, and you might see, there might be something come up that you really find is very cool. I'm using some technical terminology here. You may have heard this before, the word cool. When I say the word cool, I'm talking about this working with PowerPoint. This is cool. So just so that we're of the same understanding. So I want to create another slide. I want to do one more thing before I go on to the extra. I should point this out. If I click here, or if I click here, if I do not click in my text area, if I click outside my text area, notice most of my tools up here on my ribbon are not available for me to use. And the same is true with some of the other ribbons, not all of them, of course. Yeah, okay. Primarily the Home tab. So thank you. So if you are active, if you click on an area outside of text, all of these tools are not available. If you want these tools to be available, you must be active in some text area, and then you're good to go. Let me continue on. I'm going to create another new slide. So I click on that, and for now I'm going to ignore the title for this because I want to bring to your attention down here. It is from here that I can insert a table, a graph. We're talking about Excel stuff here. I can insert SmartArt stuff. Oh, you want to see cool? Explore SmartArt. The 3D modeling, pictures. Oh yeah, I'm going to look at pictures and even videos and icons. I want to point out that each of these you can likewise insert into any slide from the Insert tab. And you've got all these possibilities over here, as well as others. But again, these are some of your more commonly utilized tools. So what I want to do is I want to add a picture. Now again, a picture is considered to be an object, more of a graphical object, but it's an object nonetheless. So I'm going to add a picture as I fire up from the Insert tab, Pictures here. It first asks, on this device, on my computer, or online. Yes, you can download pictures from the internet. The only thing that you need to be aware of is that most of the pictures that you can download and use in a PowerPoint slide, most of them are royalty and copyright free. If they are not, of course, you'll probably encounter a warning that says, or maybe a background logo that says this is copyrighted, etc. But the vast majority of the stuff, when you go looking around for pictures, the vast majority is free of charge. They don't charge a royalty fee, nor is it copyrighted. But you need to be aware. You need to be aware. I'm going to insert pictures that I have stored on my computer. I have a bunch of pictures that I put in this particular folder. And of course, the cute one here is my youngest granddaughter. And I'll be using that here in a second. But I first want to insert this picture here. I kind of like this picture. But this picture has a little bit of a drawback. As I double click on the picture, I see that it's fairly small in comparison. Many times when I bring a picture into a slide, it tries to take up all of the available real estate in the slide. This one does not. And that's a little bit of a hint because this is a small file size. Now that's not in itself a bad thing unless you want to make your picture bigger. Allow me to illustrate. I want to make my picture bigger, and the way I do that is I position my mouse on one of these little circles. These are called handles. And as a general rule, I use the corner handles to expand or contract the size of this picture because I don't want it to be skewed. If I use one on the sides or top or bottom, the picture is going to be skewed. It's going to be squeezed in some way and or stretched out, and I don't want to do that. So I keep it symmetrical by the corner handle, again exercising the click and drag. Now as I do this, please observe that I lose detail in the picture. What looked okay when I first inserted this object, what first looked okay now looks less so. The smaller the file, the smaller the picture. If you go to expand it, you're going to lose a lot of that detail. The really small pictures, you will see jagged edges. Yeah, you've probably seen this before. That's called pixelation. So as a general rule, you want to find a picture that is of, I use the term loosely, better quality. And better quality is usually indicated by a larger file. Okay, so this file is fairly small. I'm going to delete this file. Oh, how do you delete something? I first have the object selected. And I know it's selected because I see the handle surrounding it. And then there's a magic key on the keyboard labeled delete. Pretty good, huh? Because I want to insert the picture of my youngest granddaughter. Now, her nickname is Cutie. There she is. And as I expand this out, I see that I still got a lot of detail. This is fairly nice. She likes peanut butter and jelly. Indeed, she does. This is an object that I placed on my slide. I can make it as big or as small as I want it to. You're probably accustomed to the idea. Let me reduce this down again. You're probably and I moved it over to the side by pointing in the middle of the picture. Click and drag. As I go to insert one more picture, now that one's fairly big. Some of you may recognize this. Take a minute to eyeball that. And maybe you recognize the picture, and I didn't do a good job because I've got it slightly tilted there, but I still like it nonetheless. That's Mount Fuji over in Japan. I took that a couple of years ago. So I'm going to make this a little bit more smaller. Good. All right. Over here on the left side, I see that I've got 3 slides. One is the title slide, and then I've got a slide with bulleted information, and then I've got the 3rd slide with my pictures. Now is the time to point out that whenever you have an object selected, like right here, I have this picture selected. If I click outside, over here on the edge, it is no longer, if I click over here in my margin area, if I could use that term loosely, margin area, yeah, it is no longer selected. If I click back inside, I see my handles surrounding it. I want to point out, back over here on slide number 2, if I click in here, I see the handles surrounding it. Therefore, I have this selected. And of course, I've got my insertion point active as well. My point is that when you have an object selected in PowerPoint, you're going to see a different tab come up here. The tab is what is called context sensitive tab. Depending on what you have selected will determine the content of that ribbon within that tab. Again, allow me to illustrate. I'm in a text box, this shape format. Yeah, this is considered to be a shape. I know, kind of rectangular, but it's a shape. And there are a whole lot of tools that control just that object. If I click back over in slide number 3, and then click on one of the pictures, I have a different context-sensitive tab up here, and the contents of that is substantially different than the text. Again, these are tools dedicated to working with a picture. Okay, so watch for that. I'm not going to go into all of the details of all of these different things, but there's a lot of neat stuff that you can do with pictures in here. A lot of neat stuff. Again, the technical term for this is cool. For instance, and I'm just pointing without clicking. I pointed right here. Now I'm pointing right here. As I point without clicking, I see the preview of what it's going to look like before I apply it. There's lots of cool stuff in here, folks. You want to explore. One more thing that I want to do is that I want to insert what is called a shape. So again, I go to my Insert tab. From the Insert tab over here a little bit further to the right is my Shapes menu. And I see that I've got a whole bunch of different shapes. And I also am rethinking myself. You know, I don't have a whole lot of room on this slide. Well, I can make those pictures smaller. So I'm going to add 2 different shapes in here because I want to illustrate the differences between these 2 types of shapes. I generally classify these shapes as a line shape or an area shape. Again, allow me to illustrate. I've opened up the Shapes tab, and from here, I'm going to create a line arrow shape. Now, I clicked on it, and I didn't see anything happen. But notice if you bring your mouse into your working area, your mouse has changed. And now, if you exercise a click and drag, you've created an arrow, a line arrow. And the line arrow has only 2 handles on it. Of course, this means that I can change the length and angle. I can also point with my mouse at, if I can use that term loosely, the arrow shaft, and I can click and drag and reposition it wherever I need. When you're doing this, with most of your shapes, you're going to see these guides come along. They're trying to tell you that you're approaching the center or alignment with something. Pay attention to those guides. They can be very, very helpful. So I've got a line arrow shape there. I also want to insert what is called a block arrow shape. Now, of course, when I use my click and drag, yes, this time I've got a whole lot of handles around it. And I've also got some little orange colored handles. And if you point with your mouse and you click and drag at that orange colored handle, ooh, once again, this is cool. That aside, now is a good time to point out there are two primary differences between the two shapes that I've created. The line shape, which is in the form of an arrow, and the area shape, what is called a block arrow. Of course, visually, they're two different things, but I also want to point out, whenever you have an area shape selected, no matter what it is, this is actually a very fancy text box. Notice I did not click to do anything unusual with this. All I did was I just had my object selected and I start typing. This is actually a fancy text box. And once again, I exercise that term that we call cool. All right. So when we're working with slides, we understand that we can, from the Home tab, add a whole bunch of slides. And now I want to briefly discuss how to rearrange the slides. It's going to happen to you sooner or later. You're working up your presentation and things are going well. And then you realize that I've got 37 different slides and oh, I didn't put those in the right order. I need to make, now what do I do? Easy stuff. Literally over there on the left side, this area right here, if you want to rearrange your slide, it's a matter of click and drag. So I want what is now slide number 2, I want it to be slide number 3, click and drag. Easy stuff. So you arrange them in the order that you like. Now, I will acknowledge, you get 10 slides, you get 30 slides in here. Oh yeah, it goes on seemingly forever. There may be a better way for you to arrange your slides. Yes, indeed. Right now, the view that I am working with is the default view. And the view that I'm working with from the View tab is called the normal view. Please don't ask me why they call it normal. And you see this with a lot of Microsoft products, the term normal applied in various different aspects. Yes, this is the normal view. Okay, fine. But I want to bring to your attention the slide sorter view. As I click on the slide sorter view, when you've got 30 different slides, this is a better way to rearrange your stuff. Let me also point out, down at the very bottom right-hand corner, in what is called the toolbar down here at the very bottom, I can return to my normal view. I can return to the slide sorter view down here. And I've also got this reading view. So now we get an idea of what it's going to look like when you actually do the presentation, what your audience is going to see. Now that I'm active in my reading view, I'm going to return to my normal view. Yeah, we've got a bunch of different views. There are actually 5 different views up here. I just like to bring to your attention a couple of views, the slide sorter and the, excuse me, the normal view. I should also point out, this is especially useful in the slide sorter view. If you've got, I know you're probably going to say, I would never do this, but it may very well happen to you. You've got 60 slides and you can't see them all in the slide sorter view because there's just too many of them. May I suggest utilizing the zoom down here. Now I can zoom out with a minus. I can zoom in with a plus. But that's not the only way for me to zoom. The tool that I'm about to show you is likewise applicable in Word and Excel and access and a whole bunch of other different applications. Yes, we've got that zoom tool down there, that little, and we can grab that gauge indicator and click and drag as we like. But let me show you another way of accomplishing the same thing. On your keyboard, hold down the control key, and with your wheel of your mouse, there it is. With the wheel of your mouse, you can zoom in, you can zoom out. This meets the definition for cool. You bet. I know, it does not take a lot to entertain me now, does it, folks? Huh? You probably figured that out by now. So rearranging the slides is easy peasy. Let me talk briefly about animation. Animation means the movement of an object on the screen. Yeah, and this is done automatically. I'm not talking about you clicking and dragging it. No, I'm talking about it sort of doing it on its own, okay? Animation is one of the tools that can lead to a little bit of frustration. It requires a bit of patience and practice to get the hang of what's going on with this. I'm going to work first with the text, and I'm going to work on the title for slide number 3, what is now my slide number 3. I'm specifically going to select the frame around it. For me, that's a little easier to work with. I've selected the frame surrounding it, and from the Animations tab over here, this presents me with a whole lot of neat different ideas. For instance, appear means exactly that. When I turn on appear, notice this, and I'm going to come back to this. If I change my mind, fade, and I'm seeing an example of what it will look like during the presentation. If I try fly in, or float in, these are your animations. Now you may recall that I selected the entire text box, that title. And when I applied the animation, of course, it applied to the whole thing. What if you wanted to apply to just the first level? Well, if you select just that first level, very nice. Now, for some of you, this gets your mind to thinking and the creative process running. Be aware. Don't let this be a distraction from the information you're trying to convey. Yes, it can be a distraction, so be aware. But I do want to illustrate one of the controls that you can exercise with this. For instance, with the first level bullet that I've got here, understanding that the wheel is applied to that one. Well, that's cool. I bring to your attention over here on the ribbon for the Animations tab, over here, in my opinion, this should be turned on automatically when you fire up PowerPoint, but it's not. Click on the Animation tab. It says Animation Pane. Yes, Animation. And notice the spelling of that. That's P-A-N-E, not P-A-I-N. Okay? And it opens up a pane over there on the right side. And this pane shows the controls for all of your animations on this slide. For instance, the very first animation is number 1. Aha, I see number 1 over here and number 1 over here. So yeah, we're talking about the same one. If I select number 1 and I want to play this, if I want to see what it's going to do, I can click on play from, and that's exactly what it does. Now, I said controls. For the first animation, if that animation, the float in, was too fast, you can change that. If you position your mouse very carefully right here on the right edge of that little green space there, and click and drag, you can expand the time that it takes for that to play through. Ooh. And I can do the same thing with the next animation, etc., etc. Every time you assign an animation, it is assigned the sequence. If I create another one, even if it's way down here, if I create another one down here, that's going to be animation number 3. And then I assign another animation up here, that's going to be animation number 4. So be aware. On the other hand, okay, so I'm assigning animation here. Oh, I'm so impressed with myself. And then I assign animation here. And yeah, I assigned the, oh, I already did the wheel, didn't I? Well, all right. And if I change my mind, I want what is now the 4th animation. I want it to be the 3rd animation. Well, all I have to do is click and drag to bring that up. And I'm looking for that horizontal line right here. And I let go. Now it's the 3rd one. Notice, and I didn't point this out before, but notice the numbers over here. Just like I know what I'm doing. I want to move on from animation to transition. Transition is from one slide to the next, and transitions are controlled from this tab up here. You select one of your slides, and this is the entire slide, not parts of the slide, the entire slide as it moves from one to the next and the next and so forth. The first one, of course, means that this is what it's going to look like when the slideshow starts. And for number 2, sure, random bars, okay. So that's what it will look like as I navigate from slide to slide. At this point, I'm ready to do a little bit of a review to see what it's going to look like in real life. From the slideshow tab, I want the slideshow to run from the beginning. Normally, we advance from one slide to the next with the mouse click, with the enter key, or with a remote clicker. Okay, so I'm going to fire this up, and notice the F5 key. I can do this from the F5 key. Yep. So there's the beginning of my slide presentation. I hit the enter key. Oh, there's the next one. Very cool. Now, I haven't assigned any particular transition animation, if you will, any transition thing to this slide, so it just appears. And then when I hit the enter key again, I see my animations as I go from one to the next. I have not assigned any times to this, so that means that I must do them manually. Again, I'm doing it from the enter key. And then the 4th one way down there on the bottom. And then one more time. Now this last slide, as I hit my escape key, the last slide, of course, is empty. Not bad. I do want to mention one more thing. I have become accustomed, some would say dependent, on PowerPoint. And because for me, this is a great tool. But when it comes to the actual presentation, if you've got a laptop of recent vintage and you're doing this from remote, if you're doing this from a different, you're in a different room, or you're in a Zoom, understand you can set this up so that the audience sees your presentation, but you see something else. Oh yeah. So what do you see something else? You see what is called a presenter view. In the presenter view, you can also have displayed for your information that the audience cannot see what are called notes. Notes. Working in a slide, and let me pick on my pictures here. Working in a slide, I'm going to position my mouse right here, and I'm looking for that double-headed arrow, and I click and drag up. The notes that I assign here are notes that you as the presenter will see in the presenter view, and of course the audience will not see that. If you're working from in a room, an auditorium or a classroom or whatever it is, the what you see on your monitor is going to be the presenter view. what comes out on the projector for everyone else to see might be considered another monitor. They see the presentation, you see your notes, and a preview of what the next slide will look like. If you're working in Zoom, oh yes, this is where a dual monitor system can really come in handy. Yeah, because on one monitor you will have your presenter's view, and of course the other monitor you can assign in Zoom for the audience to see the actual presentation itself. And it is with the notes that I am able to construct a presentation with a script for me to walk through. If you've seen any of my presentations that I've recorded, yeah, that's what I've cheated. I'm actually reading a script. So now you know. Now you know. Last but not least, saving your work. After all this hard work, of course you want to save what you've been working on. There are a couple of different ways that you can approach this. One is from the File tab, and from the File tab, selecting Save. Another way is on the Quick Access toolbar is residing, the very first one, the Save icon. Or from the keyboard, Control S as in Sierra. Any one of these will bring up your Save dialog. And of course, you can assign a name to a presentation. You can assign it wherever it needs to be assigned. I'm going to leave it right there. And from there, I need to reduce the size of this window so that I can see, because I've got some zoom controls here. And I click over here on Save, and I see up here at the top, confirmation that I've saved my work. The best way for you to assemble a good presentation is a two-step process. Number one, assemble a presentation. Number two, rehearse. And then you're ready to go. I can tell you from experience, I will walk through, I will assemble a presentation. I've got everything, I think, in the right order, and then I will rehearse. And I will find myself going back and changing this and adding that, subtracting this, rearranging, etc., etc., etc. Expect it to happen. That was a very brief nutshell on how to assemble a PowerPoint presentation. Very brief nutshell. Richard, what sort of questions have you got for me?
Well, we've got Willie Brown, who's asked a couple of questions. And the first one is, oh, first of all, your granddaughter's so cute.
Yeah,
she's cool. She's cool.
She knows it too.
So Willie Brown is asked, on the third level sub bullet to the main bullet, can you show how that's done?
On the third level bullet, if I want to promote this to the first level, and it's a line that already exists, on my keyboard, I hold down the Shift key and I hit the tab. Well, I need my cursor at the very beginning, of that line. Hold down the Shift key, hit the tab a couple of times. I have promoted that.
Okay, and the second one from Willie was, are pages being saved automatically?
The answer is yes. With the Microsoft products of recent vintage, there is what is called an automatic save in place. It automatically saves your work every 10 minutes. If you have not previously assigned a file name to this, like I did with this, I call it a name to a presentation. If you've not previously done that, it saves it as a temporary file. And all this happens in the background every 10 minutes. I can tell you from experience, this actually works. There was more than once when, for whatever reason, my computer died. And then when I was able to recover my computer and I bring back the PowerPoint, it asked me, do you want to pick up from where you left off from the last save, which was an auto save. And the most that I lost was 10 minutes worth of work. Kind of cool.
Thank you. And Cliff Hart, my good friend from Idaho, has asked, can you take a block arrow and place it upon a photo and maybe take a circle or a square and show it what it looks like on top of a photo?
Sure. Again, these are considered to be objects. And as objects, you can stack them one on top of the other. For instance, let me reduce the size of my notes there. So I grab my block arrow. Now, just like stacking objects on a table, you put a book on a table. On top of that, you put a magazine. On top of that, you put a plate. And on top of that, you put a fork. The one on top, of course, is the one that was done last. This text box, or this block arrow, I should say, I created that last. So no matter where I place it, it's always going to be on top. This line arrow, for instance, if I want that line arrow, and I'm going to change the color, I'm just dissatisfied with that. I'm going to change the color of that line arrow. I want it to be more distinctive. There we are. And this line arrow, if I want this line arrow to be on top of the text box, I have to bring it forward and park it out front, and now it's on top. The picture of my granddaughter was created first. That's going to be underneath everything else because it was done first. So think of them in terms of stack.
Thank you. And Lion Lavanya Adekandi is asking, can we use more than one theme in the same presentation?
I've never tried that. And that's one of the more or less advanced topics. What she's talking about, if you'll allow me, from the design tab over here, I'm looking at a series of themes. The idea with a theme is that all of the different objects that can be on your slides are configured in a particular way. A graphical object, a text object, a table object, a smart object, etc., etc. And they're given, for instance, the one that I'm pointing at here is called integral. Notice my line arrow. It was I changed it to yellow. Now it's green, and that's because of the theme that is in place. So the theme controls the visual appearance of your text. It controls the visual appearance. Let me illustrate. Yeah, it controls the visual appearance of your the background color, all sorts of different things, and of course, you can actually modify this. I have never tried working more than one theme on the same slideshow, and I'm not sure how you would be able to do that. That would take some playing around, experimenting. I've never tried that. Boy, you present a good question. Now I'm kind of curious. So after we're done here, I'm gonna break away and see what I can find.
And next from the Sudbury Lions, Lion Paula Magnati is asking, can you show how to brand the slides with the Lions logo on the slides on the master slide and inserting a video?
Ooh.
Not sure if this is more advanced training, but she's asking anyway.
She's asking anyway. And there's one big clue that she said that she mentioned in here, and that was master. The way these slide layouts are constructed, and what we see with these slide layouts are controlled by what is called the slide master. I'm looking at my view tab. This is advanced section here. So for some of you who have no idea of what in the world I'm doing, bear with me. From the view tab, I motor over here to the slide master. Now with the slide master, I have a new tab up here, context sensitive again, and it's got different components in it. And notice what happens over on the left side with my slide sorter. These are all the different layouts. I can actually change the layout components to add or modify what is already in place. This is the when I'm doing this, I much prefer to do it from here, the very first one, because when I apply a change to this, it will take effect with all the different layouts. For instance, the title. If I change the font and maybe the font color to the title here, it will change the font and the font color to all of the titles for all of the different layouts. Allow me to illustrate. I've selected just the title. I'm in the slide master. I motor over to the home tab and I change the font to something really very obvious. Notice all of my titles for all of my layouts likewise changed. So that's working with the, and let me do an undo. That's working with the master. And let me return to the master, slide master tab over here. I also want to point out these right here. If you find yourself continuously changing your bullet to a different, something different than those dots that we see, and you have to do it on each and every slide, do it from the slide master, and you do it once. If you don't like the distance between the bullet and the beginning of the text, if you don't like that distance, you can change that from the slide master and it will take effect throughout. Oh, what a relief. But the more relevant question is, what about that Lions logo that you want to appear on every slide? And some would disagree with you, but let me show you how to do that. I'm in the slide master, and I'm on the very first master slide layout, if you will. From the Insert tab, because the Lions logo is considered to be a picture, I have to download it from LCI in advance. And I don't see it here, so let me go. Oh, I know where I've got them. Stand by. Let me navigate to where I need to go. Pictures and logos and logos. So I've got a bunch of my logos here, and I'm going to select the transparent. That means the background is transparent. It is not white. It is transparent. So I'm inserting it, and then I park it at the appropriate spot. Maybe reduce its size. And notice over here with all my layouts, they now all have that same picture, the logo. Easy to do. When I am done, I need to close the master view. The only way for me to do this is from the slide master tab, close the master view, and I'm back in business. Ooh. And I notice that's all right. My granddaughter's picture should take precedence over that anyhow.
Al, you might like to take a second and explain how on the LCI website there are a number of different kinds of photos, icons, logos that are available for this sort of work.
Yes. There we are. So I'm on the LCI. Oh, but I haven't shared. Let me reshare. Stand by. Here we are. Okay, on the LCI website, and of course there's lots of fascinating, wonderful information that you want to explore. But I bring to your attention the search button. What am I searching for? Logos. And gee, there's a whole bunch of logos and emblems that I can use, and I can download them from the LCI website. I strongly suggest you do it from the LCI website for two reasons. Number one, they've got the latest version, and there are many old versions of Lions logos. They've got the latest versions, and these are high quality with lots of excellent detail. So this is where you can download them. And there's a bunch of them in here. Campaign 100. The format that you want for most people is going to be either JPEG or PNG. So you download either one. I'm going to pick on PNG. I click on that, and of course it's going to do the download, and of course it shows up in a different window, and I'm not sharing all of my. I'm just going to go ahead and share my desktop. Yeah, screen number one. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and share my desktop. So I downloaded it, and this is a high quality picture. Notice the detail on the edges here. This is very nice. So you download it. You'll want to save this in a location that is convenient for you. Most people will save this to their pictures collection, but whatever happens to work for you. So I'm not going to save this because I've already got a couple, 3 different versions of this, so I'm okay. So from the LCI website, we would download any of these different logos. And again, there's a lot of them in here, including Leo's logos in here. Yeah. So yeah, feel free.
I would also mention, as you're looking for things that are of interest, throughout the LCI website, there are a number of photographs that you can download and cut up and copy paste and make some interesting different things. For example, when I was doing a branch presentation, there's no logo for a branch, but there's a brochure there, and I just took a picture of the brochure and cut it up the way I wanted to create a visual for my slide for the thing. There's also on Facebook a group of people who have shared logos and photos about lions that they've made themselves that they're willing to share with other people. And also on the LCI website, there is a press kit area that has a lot of fascinating stuff in it. So don't be afraid to look around and be inventive. And if you have questions, go on the Global Lions Forum and ask them, and we'll try to help you with them.
You bet. And I don't hesitate to encourage utilizing the search tool on the LCI website. Depending on what you're looking for, it may take a little bit of persistence, but you'll find what you need.
Yes, and Lavanya has mentioned that the Lions brand kit is a treasure for sure. And Roy Morris has asked, where do we find the photos that Lions have created? And off the top of my head, I don't recall, and I can't look for it this moment. Go on the Global Lions Forum and ask the question. It'll pop up because many of the same people. Now, I also will tell you that Lion Al has now been cleared for takeoff on the Global Lions Forum. So he's there, and any questions you might have that you didn't get answered tonight, just go there tomorrow and ask the question, and he'll be there to answer them for you.
Or ignore you altogether. No, I shouldn't say that. No. Other question, Richard, this did not take as long as I expected. So this is good. Let's open the floor for some more questions. Other questions? Richard, have you got any more?
I'm at the end of the questions. Melissa Murphy from the UK has some amazing stuff. She always shares, says Dawn Rice Norton. And Melissa Murphy is also a member of the Global Lions Forum. So she's there to answer questions if you'd like. And Willie Brown says, I see it's been recorded. Yes, it has. It will show up on the Global Lions Forum as a recording in a couple of days. It will be on Lions Virtual on YouTube where you can find it, but we will place the link on the Global Lions Forum. And once again, the Sudbury Lion says, is there time to insert a video?
Sure, let's try that. So I'm in my my new slide here, and one of my options is from the Insert tab or from here to insert a video. So I'm going to insert a video. Now, it just so happens that I have a whole bunch of neat videos on here that I happen to appreciate, that I happen to enjoy. Let me expand, before I insert the video, let me expand a little bit on videos from YouTube. If you're doing a presentation and you want to display a video that is on YouTube, understand, and this is especially true if you're working with Zoom and not an in-person presentation, understand that you'll be streaming down from YouTube onto your computer to be streamed out on your computer to an audience. That means it's going to be real slow. So rather than do that, I strongly suggest you download the video from YouTube and have it reside on your computer and then use it as you need. There is not a default way to do this from YouTube. There are a variety of free tools available for you to use. The one that I use is called WinX. Download, and you can actually park it on your computer and then use it as you need to. One of the videos that I recently downloaded is, and I really want to show this off because the guy really did a great production on this. And here it is. Is it this one? I'm going to change this so that I can see the one that was latest. Was New Lines. Yep, that's the one, New Lines. So I'm going to insert this. Okay, here it is right here. Now, initially, what we see is the initial screen, if you will. But notice I've got different tools down here. Oh, yeah. And I can use this to play.
It's time for action.
Getting stronger. This is how legends are made. Above it all, untouchable. A new animal. This is how legends are made. This is how legends.
It's been a difficult few years for Lions membership, but out of difficult periods, there is opportunity. This starts with a collective effort through MD19. Let us share in the excitement of service and growth. We have all been forced to work through isolation, and our communities and members are ready to serve and engage once again. This doesn't just happen. It takes hard work, but it can be fun and rewarding. It also is an opportunity to diversify, adapt, and overcome in our new normal. Next steps. Let's share in our successes, our challenges, so that we can all collectively move MD19 and its membership forward. Let's turn the tide. It's time to grow. I look forward to working with all of you and sharing our successes and challenges.
Okay, let's go.
You know, Richard, it just dawned on me. I may not have set up the share correctly to include the audio. How did that come across?
It came across great.
Oh, okay, good. So the feed was smooth as well?
Yes.
Okay. So again, that's the advantage of downloading first from the from YouTube, having the video actually placed on your computer, and then feeding it out from there. There's a great advantage there. Very good. So I've planted the video in here. There are a number of controls that I can use with this, including I can assign and I can set this up so that I format the video, text and position. I think text size and position is, yeah, allows me over here on the right side so that I can actually assign this as maximized. Maybe that's not it. There's a way, it's been a while since I've done one of these. There's a way for me to maximize, oh, up here in my tab, up here, correction color, reset design, video shape, border effects. I do believe that I want to, no, I don't want that. I want this to be maximized when I play this thing. So the controls for format the video, is it format the video? No. There is a way for me, I just can't place my finger on it right now. There is a way for me to have this played maximized. I just can't place my, it's been a while, like I said. Yeah, I apologize, it's been a while. So, question, go ahead.
Lavanya has pointed out the location of where we can get the great pictures and posters, and it's in the chat. And Cash wants to know where we find background photos for our Zoom pictures.
Understand in the Zoom window itself, alongside your video button, at the bottom of the Zoom window, alongside the video button is a list arrow. If you open up that list arrow, you choose from the menu, choose virtual background. And underneath your image, of course, you can have any one of those backgrounds. Notice the plus just above those images on the right side. You can add a picture that you happen to prefer. I have changed. I've got a bunch of different pictures that I use. When a meeting is getting kind of boring, I use that one. If I want to make people feel guilty, I tell them that they've interrupted my workout. I might also tell them that I'm changing in my garage, changing the dilithium crystals on the propulsion plant. I can make them think that I'm a very studious and intelligent person. There's a lot of different pictures. And of course, if you've got some pictures that you happen to prefer, hey, that's an even better idea. Understand your image is going to be presumably in the center. You know, you could do this, I suppose, but presumably your image is going to be in the center. So therefore, if you've got something like this, you know, so keep that in mind as you work your way through these things. But that's how you get those different pictures in the background. The video filters allow you to do such things as, let me find my favorite. My favorite is down here. The video filter is this one right here. Now, this is just fun. It's nonsense, but you know, it puts a smile on people's face. I'm going to turn that off. Yes, thank you. Let me return to my this is my favorite one. I know I'm still in the middle, but yeah, I happen to like that one. I stole this from someone. I don't remember who.
So Lion Willie came in and wanted to know, couldn't we just use the handles to expand the size of the video? We
could, but on the playback, I believe that playback, there it is right there. So that no matter what size this, on the actual playback, for instance, from the view tab, the slideshow tab, from the current slide, this is what we get to see. Pretty cool, huh? So yes, there is a way to do that. And if you were to expand it manually with the handles, you may still see the edge up around the edges of the screen, you know. But this the playback tab has that option right there, which is very nice. Rewind, I knew the controls were in there somewhere. For those of you that feel adventurous and you want to cut out part of the presentation, the trim controls allow you to do that. The nice thing about this is if you trim too much, Not a big deal. You delete this, and then you reinsert it all over again and start over.
And Ricky Dodson wants to know, how do you make that circle when you do the clacking with your keyboard?
Oh, you hear? Oh, yeah, I forgot about the clacking of my keyboard. I've got a keyboard that I specifically bought because of the feel of this. This has got an old-fashioned, I'm old-fashioned IBM type keyboard feel to it, and it involves some sound. What I did was I modified my mouse controls. This is the mouse controls in Windows, not in PowerPoint, that I assigned with the mouse controls so that every time I hit the control key, this is what you see. So you find that in the mouse controls, and the mouse controls are found in the control panel.
I think we're at the end of our questions, Lionel.
Oh, all right. One last item, if I could, and it's on my it was on my background. My email address. That is my email address. Questions, ideas, thoughts, criticisms. Be aware that the criticisms in my email box are limited to 2 per day. So, if you don't hear back about your criticism, it may be because you reached the limit. So I don't know.
Lionel, while your email is up there, could you tell all of the listeners about the new role you'll be taking on with Lions Clubs International? I think they maybe want to reach out to you about some other types of training too.
Sure. Yeah, Daniel and Richard are one of the few that know this. So I guess I'm going to spread this far and wide now, aren't we? I'm going to be working with LCI as a new club consultant, and I'll probably be starting next month. And the idea here is a district governor or a GMT or GAT person within a district or even a multiple district can request my presence, and I will come out to your location, and this is free of charge. LCI pays my way, and I will help you stand up a new club. It's not as easy as my mere appearance, and I make things happen. And there's a lot of work involved on the part of all the participants. But if you think that you want to start up a new club, and especially if you've never done this before, yes, by all means, contact LCI, ask for a new club consultant, and I just may show up on your doorstep one day. Who knows?
You can request Lionel specifically by name on your form. And I just wanted to let people know, he is someone that I have been to many of his membership presentations all across the country. He knows what he's talking about. He's a fun guy, and I think he's going to be bringing in clubs all over this our CA1. So please reach out to Lionel. Tell your district governor to reach out to Lionel. I want to see him traveling all over this place next year.
I love travel. I really do. And if I can go to a location I've never been to before, all the more better.
Lionel, I think it's not that far over to Idaho, and it would be really cool if we saw you over there.
I think it'd be really cool too. Yeah. Let's see if we can put that together.
We've got 2 people watching you right now. I think we're near the end, Lionel, and do you have some closing comments? I see wonderful presentation there from Carol Torsett, and thanks, Lionel, for a cool presentation from Jocelyn. Yasser says, welcome from Mogadishu, Somalia, and well, you can read the rest yourself.
Yeah. Closing comments. For those that are new to PowerPoint, yes, this is a weird and scary application, a weird and scary program. Don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to try something new. Yes, you will stumble and you'll scratch your head, and you may even incur baldness like I have got because of scratching your head. It's worth the time and effort to experiment, just to explore. So make the time, make the effort, and you will be rewarded.